Hey, welcome back. This is Cetriya, Cetriya, and I'm going to go ahead and get started on this live stream for tonight. As I mentioned, today we're going to be working on just some fan art sketches that I feel like doing preliminary. Probably set them up for some speed paints, and in the midst of that, I will be talking about staying motivated. You know, dealing with those times where you don't feel like drawing. I know it's a topic I probably chat about prior, and I know it's a topic that people constantly posting on like social media and in forums and whatnot. So I figured this would be something that would be interesting to talk about. This will not be too much of a long stream. Perhaps an hour, hour and a half, all depends on how many people start coming in. If you have not caught a stream before, I try to keep them between either Monday or Tuesdays, but I think I'm officially going to move it out to Tuesdays at 7:30. As you can see, I'm kind of starting a bit early, and that's because I want to be able to get to bed a little bit early. So in the midst of it all, let me guys know if you have any questions throughout the stream, if you have any preferences, or in case, let's see here, double check with all the streaming issues and stuff like that. But like I said, should be streaming to YouTube. Like I said, if you have any other questions, let me know. So far, I'll make sure that this is actually going. Yep, okay, cool. So the stream is working correctly, and let's get started on the art. Like I said, if you have any questions while I'm just chatting about, being motivated and stuff like that, throughout the stream and talk, I'll probably give some tips and also talk about my experiences. Let me know if the audio is too loud or if you're unable to hear my voice. I'll try and make sure to keep it relatively chill. Now, YouTube lately, as you can notice, I'm not playing any jazz music. That's partly because YouTube all of a sudden went back to like my older videos and started to say that they're copyrighted, even though the person who hosted the video, the music stream, said it's you could use it publicly for cafes and stuff like that. But maybe later on they decided to change their mind, who knows. So regardless, unless I'm making the music or YouTube specifically says that the music is free, I will not be using such music. I'll probably start making just a couple of tunes here and there, and I'm sorry if it all sounds the same. Maybe throughout the year, or maybe once a year, I'll start making some new stuff. Also, forgive me if I sound a little bit rusty. For some reason, all of a sudden, it could be because of allergies, my throat's been kind of constricting today. So anyhow, let's get right into it. So for the first illustration, I'm going to go ahead and color it in, and it's for that anime that no one talks about, which is Violet Evergarden, or whatever the name of that series is called. And I was planning to watch a show or two about it, even though I didn't care for the description, but mostly because of the fact that, I like the outfits, so if anything I could watch something pretty. But so far I have not watched it, and based on what people have been saying about the show, it's nothing really to write about. So it's probably not going to be a show I'm going to go to watch. But I did like the outfits, like I said, so I still consider it a win-win for me. Right now I'm just going to go ahead and clean this up real quick and then get right into some just simple coloring. Nothing too serious for today. I do have a couple of my own projects to get working on, and I kind of don't want to spoil too much for you guys, or I'm still at like the planning stages, and there's not much there for there to be shown. So So, okay, the big overarching question, what to do when you don't feel like drawing. Now, it's been very long, and I mean years, since I last really truly felt like, oh, I don't feel motivated to draw, because I don't know, to an extent, I kind of feel like I was born lazy. And if I feel like I don't want to draw or don't want to do something in particular, unless it's really necessary, then I just accept the fact that I'm just not going to work on it that day. I know that eventually I'll come out of it, or I don't. Excuse me if you hear a little bit of munchies in the background. I'm just gonna be eating my rice and soy sauce for dinner. So not that I'm poor or destitute, it's just I have some meat and vegetables, actually fish and vegetables, but I have no intention of cooking today. That's just the way it is. But yeah, it has been quite a while since I last felt that way, and I want to think that it was way back when I was in high school. And what I did is I just started drawing a couple of fan arts. I'm drawing fan arts now because I kind of feel like there's a couple of shows and designs that I've been wanting to draw, but it does goes hand in hand, where if you don't know what to draw, there's no need to like force it out of yourself, but you can just, you know, go in and just draw either fan works or draw from life. So in general, I don't think I really understand what it means to have like a true art block. There's always stuff to be drawing, and right now I'm at a point where I just have so much ideas, like so much. I wish that there was more of me going around, that I can go ahead and just wish I could just like multiply myself, really. But alas, what can be said? All right, get some reference down here. Get some color reference in. All right. So if it's just for coming up with ideas and stuff like that, that's a very easy to answer kind of issue, okay? So the real issue that I think a lot of people are having is things like not feeling like you want to draw. I'm not necessarily going to go into, say, depression things and stuff like that. I don't feel that I've really suffered through like a chronic bout of depression, but I do know that probably most of us have gone through like some sort of mild depression, at least. I think there's just a lot. It doesn't matter if you're rich or poor, young or old. I think we've all just kind of gone through a time in our lives where things weren't working out the way you'd like it to work out. So because of that, you might fall into a bout of depression, and because you're not feeling all too great or cheery, then you might end up having a sort of like art block. For some people, they can work with kind of feeling depressed and using that to motivate their art. For me though, I generally need to feel pretty decent, pretty okay, or just neutral for me to work on artwork. I can't be terribly upset or anything, because when I'm upset, the first thing I want to do is like indulge in other things, like food or reading a lot of Star Trek fanfic. And quite frankly, for a certain amount of time, that's okay, because you just need that moment of recovery, and how you're feeling currently will eventually pass away. It's not permanent, right? So there's no reason really to push yourself to that extreme, or to, because quite, unless you are getting paid and it's your day job, there is no reason for you to basically try to, I guess, bleed for your art, for lack of a better word. There's no reason really to make it that harsh on you. There's no reason to hurt yourself like that. We are humans, we are mortal, and you will eventually need to just to recover. So if we need to take 2 or 3 days, especially if you're suffering through some form of burnout. To me, when I've been hearing like other artists and YouTubers are talking about how, and creatives and whatnot, oh, I'm suffering through burnout and whatever. Fact of the matter is, if say you are working someplace, right, and that's your job, you can't just call your boss and say, hey, I don't feel like working today. I'm not feeling that great. I think I'm kind of burnt out on the workload. Like, that doesn't work that way. You can try and say that one day you might need to take off or something, but you just cannot just take a day, 2 days, 3 days, a week, 4 weeks off like that without planning it, at least, without suffering some form of consequence. And a lot of people are in that predicament. So there being that many people in that kind of situation, of course, they still push through it. So today I was relatively listening to, I think, Entrepreneurs on Fire. I think that was the name of the podcast, was Entrepreneur on Fire. And there's a part where the guest that they had today was I forgot his name, but he's the writer of a new book, because that's how podcasts roll. But the book is called Willpower is Not Enough. And also, I think on a Facebook page that I've been following called One Fantastic Week, and also the new Facebook group that Lois von Barley, I think is how you pronounce the name, Lois von Barley had posted, where someone's talking about when you'd feel like you don't want to draw. And I'm sure you've all seen those kind of posts before, of someone who just don't feel like it. And that is, you just can't force it out in that kind of manner. However, you really should put your situation in a certain kind of perspective. There's a difference between people who just feels like doing something, or wait till the muse hit, or you gotta have talent, or you have to have some sort of inspiration and just wait for it to happen and assume that eventually it'll happen. But for many people, it just doesn't happen. So let me go ahead and set some things up here. Make sure that I'm not having anything. So much stuff going on here. Alright. Just making sure this all works correctly. As I was saying, it just comes to a certain level where either you're going to do it or you're not. So, to use an example is, say, my comics, right? For years now, I've wasted quite a number of years, really. I've wasted quite a number of years, really. Just, you know, doing it when I feel like it, or if I didn't feel like it, I would stop the comic and stuff like that. And now I'm at that point where I just want to have a finished product, and I've already tasted how it feels to have a finished product. So I've had previous old comics, and I've recently found them actually because I've been moving quite a bit. But I found previously old comics, and I've had some new ones now where I like seeing the finished product. Could the art be better? Of course it could be, but the only way to get better is if you actually do the work. So that's not a nice color. This is better, but this could be a lot better. But so you have to kind of really do a personal assessment as to why you're doing something. If it's not giving you some sort of like a satisfaction or relief, not necessarily a joy, not necessarily to show it off, because at the time of the stream and when this video was posted, I on average have maybe about 250 to 300 people following any of my social media accounts, even though I've been posting, if you look up on my DeviantArt, because I think that's one of my older posting, I've been posting off and on online for about 7 years now, and yet I don't have like a lot of people following me. I don't have a large account or anything like that. And it is discouraging on those aspects. I do find that somewhat discouraging, especially in the earlier years. But I can tell you that eventually, though, you're going to have to get to a point where you're satisfied with the work that you've made versus hoping for some kind of like outside validation to motivate you to do your work. So there was that. The other thing that I've seen or heard of or even felt is, you know, that you're just not good enough yet. And because you're not good enough, you don't want to continue, or you don't even want to start. And as I just said, if you never start, you're never going to get better. A good example is I do have a book out on Amazon. And I've given that book out for free for several people. Not only is no one has ever reviewed it, to some of my beta readers, it seems like they really slog, like they did not want to read past chapter 5-ish. So basically, my story must bore them so much that they have no interest of continuing reading it. Although there is a good possibility that it was just not a story that they particularly like. Um, I've I've noticed that whenever I got people to comment, which is usually in something that requires them to, so I was in a class, so of course you're required to comment. They just quickly made one or two comments. The entire class was silent as soon as it got to mine, even though I made sure to give as much feedback. Class was silent. Teacher made one or two points, another made another points, and then they just went on ahead to the next person. You can really get a feel for that kind of feedback, and so that just tells me my stuff is boring and I'm not good enough. But unfortunately or fortunately, it's not like I'll wake up one day and then all of a sudden I'm gonna be good. And it's not all about talent either. You still need to work on it. So does that mean that I just quit or kind of dilly-dally and decide not to even bother? Well, that there is always that option. And if you do choose to pick that option, then just accept it. And I would suggest not to bother to kind of beat yourself over it continuously. Basically, if you are making that decision, to just make that decision and move on with your life. Personally, I'm making the decision to keep trying at it, and maybe later on I'll decide not to. Because here's the thing. When you try for something like this, and you try for a while, right? It's not like you don't learn anything from it. And it's not like you're not gonna use it ever in the future. In fact, more stuff that you did in grade school was probably far more useless than you attempting a passion and then deciding that, you know what, I don't think I'm gonna do that. On hindsight though, don't just keep on starting something and then stopping something. At least complete it to an extent, right? So the book that I have is only like part 1, and I plan to continue and just finish out that story also. So, and maybe finish a couple more stories before I ultimately made the decision that, you know what, maybe writing may not be my thing. I have a couple of stories that I want to test out. So I would suggest before you quit or before you feel like you need a stopping point, to just accept that you're going to go through an ugly phase. It can't be helped. It's just the way it is. It's like when you had those all those like measles and those pimples and outbreaks and, you know, your weight fluctuate, like all of those things that you get as you're growing up. You know? I think this needs to be a little bit. We'll see. We'll see what color this should be. But anyhow. But anyhow, hopefully you guys won't find hopefully you just don't get to that point of that weird burnout and art block. Like I said, it's okay to take 2 or 3 days of just completely ignoring, not even paying attention to it, just, just relaxing, decompressing and stuff. Just relax and decompress, and eventually, getting plenty of food to eat and rest, you'll feel more adept in making sure to history. Well, where is the history? Oh, there it is. On being able to stay motivated with your projects. That you're gonna go through an ugly stage, and that ultimately, if you really feel that you're just not feeling the mojo right now, there's plenty of other things to do. You could maybe work on a different kind of hobby, or perhaps even do some practice studies, because I definitely need to do some practice studies. There you go. That looks lovely. Oh, you could barely see that. Let's see if we can get a little bit. There you go. There you go. So that's the short talk about staying motivated and doing what needs to be done. So as for me, I'm right now at the stage of chapter 3. I think she's wearing gloves. Ha ha ha, she's wearing gloves. Of chapter 3 of Cross Star, and I would like to start working on it now. I've done some roughs on it, but I'm like that weird kind of in between of what's going on, because of that sort of weird in between of what's going on in real life, in my life, planning for conventions and whatnot, and oh, that actually came out pretty nice. Let's fix that. Yep. And working between different kind of different kinds of projects and whatnot. So I kind of don't want to work on chapter 3. I kind of want to just like relax a little bit and prep myself for all of the anime conventions that I'll be selling at, because I'm not a good seller. So I'm trying to read books and whatnot. But at the same time though, I very much want to just sit at home. I'm actually finding it quite relaxing to just be able to sit at home and work on the comic. Unfortunately, I do have to go to work, but I'm actually finding my work to be quite relaxing. That at this point, I don't see myself getting like art burnout or desiring not to work on anything. And stuff like that. So it's been interesting, especially considering my history when it comes to working on artwork and stuff like that. Like I said, especially ironically for art school, I didn't do a lot of personal work. It was so stressful, and I definitely know I'm gonna make a video about that, because I think I know that lately people's been talking about art schools and art teachers, and I feel that that's definitely a topic that should be talked about more. Mm. Mm. I didn't realize just how hungry I was. But yeah, so for my next video, I'll probably talk about my experiences in art school and should you go to art school. I'll spoil it for now, is my general verdict is no. Quite frankly, unless you're going into a very traditional type of job that requires you to go to such things like a doctor. Because if you're just going to be a lawyer for the sake of being a lawyer, I suggest not to put that much money either, unless you're going for a very specific reason. But pretty much there's no reason really to be going to most colleges now. To an extent, even engineering, I probably would think that you don't need to go to college per se, but you might want to enter into some sort of like training apprenticeship and stuff like that. And some of these companies now are now offering those things, but anyhow, I definitely want to start working on this chapter 3, and I believe, at least I generally believe, I should be able to make about 4 more chapters for the year. So chapter 3 to 7, I think, is that number. I'm not the best at math, you'll have to forgive me. I really love Kyle Webb's brushes. Well, yeah, I feel that if anything, if you really want to have motivation to do your work, don't seek outside validation, and I mean, seek some, because we are social creatures. So if you have like 2 or 3 people that really like your work, then accept those 2 or 3 people and accept that that's what you're going to be going for. But other than that, just enjoy the journey of your work. If it means that you'll never become like a professional at whatever that kind of art thing you're planning to do, like, I don't know, professional YouTuber, professional illustrator, because maybe it may not be like that. Maybe, because quite frankly, anything like this, when something is your job, you have to create on demand. You cannot come in and be like, oh, I feel like I have a burnout. You can't do that, because I mean, either you do it or you just don't eat. It's one of those things. Speaking of food, I do want to kind of go back and eat some more. But yeah. Anyhow, because of the recent things with YouTube and whatnot, and I know it's kind of hard for some people to catch me up on the stream and whatnot, I probably will start streaming more often on Twitch than anything else. For one thing, I'd like to listen to some of my music, that's for sure. It's just such pretty little antique colors. So now that I'm done with the topic, I'm just gonna go ahead and just enjoy coloring. I tend to color zoomed out. I don't like coloring zoom in, really. I don't. Oh, hey there, how you doing? Yeah, I'm just doodling and just enjoying myself a little bit. Finished eating some dinner. Talked about a little bit on whatchamacallit, art motivation and stuff like that. I can do a quick recap for you. I'm just about to actually head out of the stream in about 15-20 minutes. So let me know if you had any specific questions before I head out. Assuming you're able to actually hear my voice, because I did put the music a little bit louder. I know that usually I regularly stream kind of late, but I have to get to bed early today, so I can't be streaming that late. Sorry for people in the West Coast. I really like these brushes though. I'm using Kyle Webb's watercolor brushes. So they look like this. And when at the time that I bought them, which was probably a few months back, they were $13. And I think you could still purchase them only because to get them now, it comes automatically with Adobe 2018. So if you're on the Adobe Photoshop subscription 2018, you can download Kyle Webb's brushes. I guess they either bought them out or they licensed it, I guess. And currently I'm using the Wamazing. I don't know why he named his stuff like that, but Wamazing brush. I just like it because it looks so much like traditional media. And sometimes I don't feel like getting my fingers dirty. You know what I'm saying? Honestly putting a little bit too much effort on this though, considering the show apparently is not that great, but this is relaxing. Sometimes it's good to just make art that's relaxing. Eventually I should make a tutorial on coloring on Photoshop and stuff like that. I know there's like 50 bajillion of them online, but people like tutorials. Here you go. the point where my tablet starts messing with me. Alright, let's see the last bit. It's all brown, and gold. Okay. Okie dokie. I think that's blue. And then last but not least, a little bit here. And then I probably gonna say that's a wrap for me. I just need to find the one that I want. Okay, that works. Probably doing a bit of artistic license about here. Yep, it's a wrap. All right. Let's do a last bit of thing, and then that's that'll be it. Hmm. There you go. I think that's about it, unless I want to go crazy with textures and stuff. I don't know if I want to do that. I don't know if I want to do all that. I really want to do all that. Hey, and welcome. I'll be actually... This was end up being a relatively short stream. Just wanted to record my process, I guess. But I'll probably be heading out pretty soon. There you go. That's what I wanted. That is what I wanted. I think my next video will be about the question of should you go to art school or not. Because I think it's something a lot on people's mind, especially now that people is about to graduate and they gotta kind of make their decision. So, we'll see. Although I feel like most of my watchers are kind of way past that point. But, that will do. Let's see. Filter. I think that would do. That ended up being pretty nice. I like this. I'm glad I record my process because there's times where I look at something, I'm like, so how did I do that again? So, I think that works. Oh yeah, that works. I think that's it. Go ahead and save this. V hyphen record. There you go. Anyhow, guys, for some of you guys that, saw this at the live replay or the live streaming, thanks again for coming in and watching. Hopefully my starter conversation in the beginning was something interesting to you guys, and if you didn't hear it, just head on back to the start of the live stream and you can hear my talk about art motivation and my story when it comes to like art block and stuff like that. But this was just fun, something calming, relaxing, short to do, no dire, no dire type of deadlines and stuff like that. So anyhow, guys, thanks for watching. We'll have another live stream next Tuesday, and I think I will keep it to the 7:30. And leave your comments below if you have any questions. All the best. See ya laters.